So my name is Amelia Earhart, Amelia Earhart, and I've been a pilot for about 10 years, and I fly the Pilatus PC-12 NG. And this is a particularly exciting year for me because we're getting ready to recreate and symbolically complete the first flight of Amelia Earhart that ended in 1937 in Amelia Earhart's disappearance. While Amelia Earhart didn't have any children, she doesn't have any direct descendants per se, being a namesake of hers has really made me feel a strong connection to her and everything that she stood for as an aviatrix. So I grew up with this name, and being a kid named Amelia Earhart was obviously something that came with its own challenges. And I didn't really understand the name or embrace it until I was about 18 years old. And when I got to be old enough to appreciate what it meant to be named after somebody that famous, I realized that I had a pretty cool opportunity to either take on flight and embrace it and see if I could fall in love with it, or maybe just move on to my own thing. And I was getting asked a lot of questions. Every single day of my life was, are you a pilot? Are you a pilot? Are you a pilot? And for a long time I had to say no, because my parents didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have the ability to put me through flight school or even take me out for a flight lesson. So I saved up in college and decided to take my first lesson, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And from that day forward, everything I've been doing it's been directed towards flight. So about 10 years ago, when I started first flying, I thought, well, how big can I take this? Should I be an instructor? Should I, own an airplane? Should I try to go into airplane sales? And I never really knew what that would look like until I really started getting into my instrument training. I just got my instrument rating a couple months ago, and that's something that really opened doors for me in terms of understanding that I could fly all the way around the world if I wanted to. So I started throwing the idea out there little by little, and everybody that I talked to said, that's a great idea, you've got to do it, you've got to recreate this flight. There wasn't one person that said, no, don't do it. I think it had to be done. So when I think about why I decided to do all this at a young age, what I always go back to is how hard it is to learn to fly. It's expensive and it's time consuming, and there's a lot of knowledge involved. And part of my other passion is working with kids and working with charities. So I started the Fly with Amelia Foundation, which puts girls age 16 to 18 through flight school, so that as they're growing up, as they get into their 20s and 30s, they can have that confidence and that understanding of just what they're capable of inside the aircraft and also outside of the aircraft, because the skills that you learn with flying, they translate into everything. So really, the world flight, it'll be fun to be my own adventure. It'll be fun to have my own adventure and see the sights that we'll see, but really what it comes back to is inspiring the world of general aviation to get in the airplane and have your own miniature adventure, whatever it may be. Maybe it's just going across town from one airport to the next, or getting out to take that very first flight lesson. But it's really something that I want to open up the world for young women to aviation. It's just like what we were saying, you go out to an airport, and for me personally, I'm not a tomboy by any means. I'll go out there and I'm walking out to the plane, and there are still people that will stop me on the ramp and ask me if I'm lost. And that's pretty uncomfortable, and my response is always, yeah, I'm gonna go fly that by myself, I got it. And it's still so rare to see young women, and especially young, fashionable and connected women who have, a lot of other interests. It's so rare to see women like us out at the airport. And I want to invite them in. I want to show them it's not a scary place. It's a world that can connect you to all other parts of the world and really introduce you to some pretty fascinating people. And that's what Oshkosh is all about. I mean, the people that I've met here have just been fascinating, from CEOs of amazing multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar companies to just the guy that flew in his Super Cub and he's camping out here for the week. And we all have one huge thing in common, which is our love for flight.